Justice Hood. So, good Yontef. You know, when Rabbi Black asked me to speak tonight, he told me that this would be a reference to verse that describes our personal journeys. And I thought that was gratifying because that means that in describing my personal journey, I don't have to be objectively correct in anything that I'm about to share with you. So I found that request to be kind of liberating. It's so humbling to be with this cast of characters tonight, to follow someone like Osi, who's a Holocaust survivor, to hear the very heart-wrenching stories that have been shared with us by Joyce Foster about her father. I didn't know that. And Greg talking about equal rights for gay people in our community, and I just feel very humbled to even have the opportunity to be here and share the stage with them. So I chose Justice, Justice Shall You Pursue, and it may seem a little obvious given my role as a judicial officer, right? And if Gary Lozo or some of my other friends are here right now, they'd say you chose that because it's the only verse you know. Well, I think Rabbi was pleasantly surprised when I was able to pick something on my own. But it actually does have some significance to me. And let me, we hear that verse, but I think sometimes even those of us who are more familiar with this don't remember the context in which it crops up. So the passage starts, you shall appoint magistrates and officials for your tribes and all the settlements that the Lord your God is giving you, and they shall govern the people with due justice. And that's D-U-E, due justice. You shall not judge unfairly. You shall show no partiality. You shall not take bribes, for bribes blind the eyes of the discerning and upset the plea of the just. Then justice, justice shall you pursue, that you may thrive and occupy the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And so, I often think about this, not surprisingly, and considering the rule of law and the place that the Jewish people have in informing the modern conception of the rule of law. And so this is obviously a very important passage that way. When we look at it in a more scholarly way and try to become didactic about it, I suppose we often look at justice. Justice, is that just a literary or rhetorical device? The repetition of it, does it mean more? And there are a lot of thoughts about what that might mean, many of which are probably familiar to you. The ones that resonate with me the most when I think about justice is, first of all, the distinction between public justice and private justice. And so Rabbi and I shared emails about this, and we talk about public justice, we talk about the kind of third-party justice, I suppose, in which I'm involved on a daily basis. But we also have the notion of justice as something that is a more personal experience, right? So even when there's not that third-party accountability for what we're doing, accounting for our transgressions, we also have this private notion of guilt and feeling conscious of our injustices. And I was thinking just today about a story a law clerk shared with me. His 3-year-old daughter is taking swimming lessons, right? And she told her father that she had put her head underwater, and she was so proud, right? And so, of course, he beamed with pride and said that was wonderful. And then when he put her down to bed last night, she said, "Daddy, I didn't really put my head underwater." This is a 3-year-old. It's just fascinating to me that first she would feel the need to lie to her father about having accomplished something like that because she wanted Daddy to be proud. But then there's almost this innate, seemingly, innate desire to want to confess, right? That she actually made it up and she had to express the guilt that she'd obviously been ruminating about with her father at the age of 3. And so this got me to thinking about this book that I've been reading called The Punisher's Brain, The Evolution of Judge and Jury by my friend and former colleague Morris Ben Hoffman, who's a district court judge in Denver, probably familiar to many of you. If this seems like a bit of a shameless plug for my friend's book, it is, I suppose. It's available at the tattered cover. It's a wonderful book. He talks about, you know, what he perceives as the evolutionary origins of our propensities to both punish and forgive. And so I want to share a couple of paragraphs from his book with you, because I think this ultimately kind of reminds me of Justice, Justice. This book is about the evolutionary roots of this interior struggle in which we all engage when we judge the behaviors of others and, of course, simultaneously judge ourselves by comparison. Evolution's last laugh when it came to the human animal was that it built our brains with two deeply conflicting predispositions. We're predisposed to cooperate with each other because living in groups gave us a substantial long-term survival advantage. But we're also born cheaters because cheating in the right circumstances gave us a short-term survival advantage. As these two conflicting tendencies tugged for our souls, we simultaneously evolved punishment behaviors, a way to dampen cheating by increasing its short-term cost to the cheater. But our punishment instincts are infected with the same conflict. Our brains have been built to punish cheaters. But that punishment urge is intrinsically restrained in no small part because we all know that we too are born cheaters. What modern judges and juries do is essentially what our ancestors have been doing for 100,000 years when they had to decide what to do with misbehaving individuals. As clans banded with other clans to form larger groups, and groups of groups formed tribes and ultimately settled into villages and towns, these punishment decisions became more and more formalized and institutionalized. They also changed to reflect the specific challenges of each society and culture, but at their heart is the same ancient three-pronged punishment strategy natural selection, in his estimation, has bequeathed us, and which will be the central topics of the book. Number one, we punish ourselves with conscience and guilt, right? Like the 3-year-old. Number two, we punish our tormentors with retaliation and revenge. So we sort of have first-party punishment, now second-party punishment. And then number three is, as a group, we punish the wrongdoers we are able to detect with retribution. And so that's sort of the third-party punishment that I was describing. Conscience helps us avoid the temptation to cheat in the first place, and guilt makes us feel bad after we've cheated. Of course, you know, you see the word guilt and you automatically think about the Jewish people, right? So that next time maybe we'll be less likely to cheat. When conscience and guilt are not enough to deter us, the risks that our victims will retaliate may be. And when neither conscience nor fear of retaliation is enough, the fear of detection and punishment by the group adds a third level of deterrence. So this reminded me as I was thinking about the task that the rabbi had given me about this public versus private business. Another reason why justice, I think, is interesting is because of tzedakah, the notion that there is a relationship between justice and charity, and the notion that justice is not just legal justice, but it's also social justice, obviously a concept that's near and dear to most Jews. And so I often think about that. This is also personal to me because as a Jew by choice, having converted after I married my wife Diana Goldberg many years ago, and after we started having children together, you know, my in-laws welcomed me after some initial misgivings. They welcomed me into the family, and ultimately have been wonderful to me. And you know, I think about justice shall you pursue. We often think about justice, but we don't think about the pursuit part, right? shall you pursue, to me, and Rabbi may tell me that I'm wrong, but what it signifies to me personally is that it's an ongoing process, that you continue to pursue it, and we've done that as a family. And so they have given me gifts that I have, bookends that have justice, justice shall you pursue, and I have wonderful artwork, and I have these things in my office that remind me not only of what my ultimate mission is in my work as a judicial officer, but also it reminds me of how we as a family have achieved a measure of justice and our peace with one another over time. And so that is very wonderful to me too. And so these are my thoughts, and again, it's such a pleasure to be with you tonight.